Okay, we know that social media is important. You need to do it in business, but how do you do it and where do you put your resources? In this interview, I talk with ChRiS Gomersall, CEO of ATOMIZED, to show you exactly what to do using a wonderful little tool. Social media is a wonderful way to reach customers and to reach out. And today, it's better than ever. Matter of fact, it's not just a good idea. It has now crossed over into the must-have category. And so when you're doing it, you want to make sure you do it right for maximum business benefits. To do that, you need a plan. And I've just discovered a company that helps people work with plans, put it together in a really good way. And we're going to talk about that now. The name of the company is ATOMIZED, and joining us right now from his home up there in the Atlanta area is ChRiS Gomersall. ChRiS, thanks for joining us today.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
ChRiS is the CEO of the company and founder, and I've been looking at what they're doing and studying it. And as you watch this, those of you that are watching this, you know that social media is important. He's got a company called ATOMIZED that helps their clients put together their plans for their social media work and do it in a creative way with a linear calendar. ChRiS, tell us a little bit about that and what ATOMIZED does, how you help clients.
Absolutely. Kind of the way we look at our product is that this has been around for a long time, right? Advertisers have tried to figure out their message weeks, months, sometimes years in advance. They know a certain product's launching. They want to figure out what they're kind of going to do during that time period. And, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, it was, okay, what are we going to run on television? What are we going to put on the radio? What are we going to put on outdoor? And what are we going to do in print? Really, that's really easy to kind of track. And the reason we're called atomized is this atomization of content. So over the past decade or so, there's this explosion of things, obviously like the internet, but that comes along with social and mobile and content development and digital signage that's connected to a server. And so what brands and agencies are having to do is, okay, instead of just these 4 lines we used to have over time, now it's a lot more things to consider, right? It can be hundreds of pieces of creative, thousands of pieces, hundreds of thousands of pieces of creative, especially when you talk about the different targeting and the ability to run it across different platforms in various forms and lengths so that the specs have changed. So that planning has become a lot more difficult than just let's pump out a piece of video and have a still image that gets resized. And so that's what ATOMIZED does as a product, is allow them to step back and look at everything that's going on and also sort. Sometimes you need to be able to sort and see things in a different way. So instead of, hey, show me everything that's running over the next couple of weeks, how about a very specific thing like show me the things that I'm running on Instagram over the next 4 weeks that haven't been approved yet that have women's running associated with them. And the calendar can resort and show you that. So
I like that.
At a high level view, it's what do we have going on? What do we have planned for the future? What's running right now? And what ran in the past? Let's look at how that did. And then also just be able to see what's going on at a very specific level as well.
Yeah, I like the way you say that. Matter of fact, before we started recording, you were telling me you call it linear visualization.
That's right.
I just like the concept of that, as we can see what's happening as we lay it out. Because sometimes, frankly, social media can get really overwhelming. It's like, oh my goodness, what are we doing here? And is it working or so? But when we look at what you've done in a wonderful linear way, we can say, okay, this is what we tried. And I understand also you have ways we can track it. So I can say, okay, that Facebook ad we ran 2 months ago, how did that do? Or, wow, this one worked, or that one was really bad. It didn't do anything. We had talked about sharing a screen. Do you have something that you could share your screen, show us a little bit of the kind of things so we can get a good idea of what you do there at ATOMIZED?
Yeah, I mean, I could show you a brief view of what the product looks like.
That's good. We'll take a brief view of it. There we go. As through the wonders of modern technology, we can see your screen on there right now.
Here we go. So this is a sample calendar sometimes we use to demonstrate to clients what the calendar does. But you can see that, you can scroll back and forth much like you would an iPad or an iPhone. And again, this is just one use case. This is obviously a very visual component. So I've got on the left print, broadcast, some Twitter, some Facebook, some different versions of Facebook Canada, Instagram, my email campaign. Again, how all this stuff works together. And what I can do is, if maybe this is the future where we're just planning it and it's blank. We've got, okay, we're thinking about doing something with cool beans here or a coffee break. And then as the time goes on, you start filling this calendar with tons of different content, right? What is this agency doing versus that agency? What is my team on email think about the new asset, and did they get the delivery of the asset or the legal changes we have? And of course, being able to click on anything and go in and view that video. So now I want to see this asset. Let's actually sit as a team and discuss this asset together.
I like it. Hey, and I like their white coffee cup there. It's ideal. The white coffee cup memo got out to everybody today.
There you go. Yeah, that's the consistent theme of this meeting.
Yeah, I like that because, Chris, as I'm looking at it here, we can't see all the details, but that's okay. We see enough of it to realize, hey, this is kind of nice. We can get a good kind of step back and look at the big picture, but also you give us the ability to zero right down to the intimate details of it, right?
That's right. And there are a lot of different ways people use this, but again, it could be planning a year out. So this wouldn't be images; it would only be text. So, for instance, if I click on the plan calendar up here, and then this looks a little different because I've got different types of rows in here. But maybe this is next year. Of course, I might have assets yet. We haven't done a photo shoot yet. We haven't done a video shoot yet. Let's talk about the products that are coming out. Let's talk about a planning strategy for when the creative team does get involved. And so, a lot of times we are. I'm going to go back to my own face here, so I don't have to look at the
That's
screen
okay.
text. But in terms of linear visualization, of course, what's running right now is important. But I would say in any creative process, the planning piece of it, the strategy, that's where advertising really got its firm grasp on modern society, right? So being able to have a strategy of who you're targeting and why, and then stay true to this key message. And again, it was easy with print and television. Now you have many different agencies. You have hundreds of people launching a product or a movie or a shoe or a back to school campaign. And when it comes time to collaborating between those people, you have to be really deliberate in how you get them to interact with each other. And in some cases, you're emailing things around, you're building, these content calendars have been around for a long time. There's nothing new about what we have with the rows on horizontally and the dates vertically. People build them in Excel spreadsheets or print them out and put them on a wall. We've seen that before. And that was fine, I think, for the past. But now people expect this cloud collaboration layer to be able to interact with each other. And so we've kept it a very simple, clean layout. We do have very advanced features, like the fact that we can connect into 800 other pieces of software. So those images that I showed you, you can either put those in manually or say, okay, connect this one to my email server, connect this one to my Facebook stuff, connect this one to my digital signage network that we're using for that agency to put out digital signage, and it can be populated automatically. So everything from automatic API connection type stuff that's showing the CMO what's going out, to a very manual process of maybe a creative team before anything's going live wants to use it to get ready to show what they're going to present or
yeah. I like it. It's real good. You got the ability to handle that from both sides. Well, now, one of the things I want to ask you about, because I know a lot of our viewers are going to see this, a lot of readers that we have at business journals are looking at it, and some of them are a very small operation. They might have one or two people. So their resources are limited, but using a tool like yours helps them to understand what's going on. How do you find out where you should be? Let's say you got an office of 2 people. That's it. They've only got 2 people. They're busy running around producing the product. They're doing the chiropractic work, or taking care of the nail salon, or they're producing their widgets, whatever. They don't have a whole lot of time, but they realize they need to be on social media. How do they figure out, say they've allocated 5 to 10 hours a week? That's about it they can do on social media and still serve customers and maintain sanity. How do they determine which platforms they should be on? What criteria should they use for that 1 or 2 person operation?
Yeah, I mean, no matter how big or small you are, you have to go where the audiences are, right? So if your audience is, using Facebook, most probably they are, no matter who your audience is, you should be there. If you find out you're getting traction of a very visual product that plays well in a visual environment, maybe you use Instagram. Again, take advantage of Facebook's targeting ability and go put this up on Instagram. Maybe it's more of a verbal, like a constant flow of communication. Maybe you're more of a news or trend type situation. You want to be the expert in a certain field or industry, and you want to put things out fast and quick and very public manner and respond to people. Go to Twitter. I mean, there are many different ways to determine. Really, the only way you can is to know the situation of those individual platforms. That includes the big guys that are up now and the people that are coming behind them. Everything that's going on in the world will start small, and so seeing which things kind of gain traction, where current customers are now. I mean, there are a lot of things you can do to determine where your customers are, but I would say we're kind of in that boat. We're a startup, and we're 3 years old now, but we do a lot of our marketing. I have to use my own product to figure out what we're doing across all these channels. We've got PR efforts, we've got email campaigns, we're trying different things on social, even LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, all these things. And we do see things kind of pop, and they go up high and they drop down. But really the only way you're going to decide on which one you should attack at any given time is the one with the biggest audience and the one you're getting the most reaction on. So I see a lot of times people will make that mistake of just kind of blanketing everything across and not paying attention to the engagement. But let's just say you put up a video on YouTube and it starts to get traction. I would say attack that. Go into the comments, or people are starting to react to you, like get back at them. Like, that's the whole idea of having comments below creative in any environment.
Sure.
Now, if you start getting that traction across multiple environments, maybe that's time to grow your team, right? Because you're like, wow, we're actually getting this traction. Turn that into sales or dollars if that's your goal. But it comes from, interacting with your audience. It's like if you had a store and people started walking in and started saying things about your product, you'd probably want to listen to what they had to say and respond back to them, ask them, pull more information out of them. So kind of a long-winded way to say, go where the audience is, and test.
Yeah. And now one thing that was very helpful is, like, let's suppose you got someone who's coming to you, and she is an accountant. She's a CPA. She has one assistant. And that's it. And now it's tax season. She is busy 18 hours a day doing tax returns. They don't have a whole lot of time. Do you have any kind of big data or even limited data knowledge to say, we have found that generally accountants or personal service providers do well in this medium versus that, rather than everyone having to create it on their own? Do you see any trends where you can say, interesting, if you're a chiropractor, we found that a chiropractor generally does well in this, not over here, and we found that a retail store does better over in this versus that. Any kind of data like that you would be able to share with them?
So I don't have any data in there, but I would also say on the flip side of that is that anybody that says they do have that data, I'd be a little leery of, right? Because the environments are changing so quickly. The products are changing. The devices you're using this stuff, everything's changing. I mean, look at the explosion of live streaming. No one has data on that because it's all happening right now, right? The individual platforms probably have the data, but no one has that comprehensive. And that stat is going to change so quickly, and it's so volatile as an industry that if anyone says, oh, this is the way you do it, it's funny. I always say that because there's so much happening, you have to account for the fact that this stuff is in constant state of change. So if you're saying this is the way to do it and go attack this, it's automatically wrong because it's going to change again. Now, if you build your strategy to kind of account for that. So in the case of the accountant, I would say right now there's a huge play for live streaming or being able to do Q&A for people. And if you take advantage of these things that are in motion, you don't have to stop what you're doing. You just have to think a little bit beforehand and start documenting that thing. So even if it is doing taxes, inherently during tax conversations, a lot of things come up. And of course, you don't want to share sensitive information, but I bet you that accountant hears a lot of the same questions over and over and over again. While she's answering them, she can record them. She can cut out all the client stuff and put out those recordings in various playlists on YouTube or Instagram posts. And around that time, when people have that question on their taxes, like, oh my gosh, how do I do this? Or does it count as a dependent if the child only lives here, half of the week or whatever it is? That content, people will go search for it or eventually use their voice and say, hey, Alexa, right?
Yes.
Does my second child count as a dependent? And then that Alexa or whatever the thing is has to go find that content online. If that content already exists from that accountant, good for them, right? Because then the answer comes up. Next time it's like, hey, Alexa, ask specific accountant this question. Then you're really starting to build that audience. And that's
a very good point.
Yeah, and you'd never be able to find that unless you tested it.
Very, very good point. You're watching ChRiS Gomersall, who's talking about ATOMIZED and what's available with this. It's a brilliant tool. And those of you watching this, listen to what he just said. You might want to go back over and repeat that, because we were talking about hypothetically an accountant, and she's working. She doesn't have a lot of resources, but she wants to reach or message out. Using something like Facebook Live or other live tools that are out there right now can be extraordinarily beneficial. And we're getting a lot of good results on that. We don't have results that go back years and years. Matter of fact, not even months and months, because it's new. But what you can find are others that did it yesterday or last week. And think about how you can repurpose that. I love what ChRiS has said. And the way they're doing that, it's not just a shoot from the hip thing, but it's being able to track it. Because now you can say, look, we got this video from Facebook. We're going to repurpose that into YouTube. And maybe over here on LinkedIn, it could be real good. And why not over here? So, ChRiS, this is a really good thing. Tell me about the benefits that we get from being able to look at the big picture together, where I'm looking at how we did my Facebook page and the stuff we did on Twitter and what we did on YouTube, et cetera, where it seemed like the magic would be in the mix of it. Tell me about your...
Yeah, I think it goes back to the fact that again, like TV and print was just about creating those two elements and resizing them. Even the print ad got kind of reserved up in a billboard environment and turned on its side and put on the side of the expressway. Now, with the audiences at the scale they are, I mean, we're measuring users in terms of billions at this point, right? So you think of YouTube and Facebook have hit that magic B number. That's going to happen with every popular app that's going to be up and coming as people fragment their time and more people come online in the world. You're going to be measuring this in billions. And so the benefit of being able to step back and look at a calendar is to say, okay, what is our YouTube strategy? How is that doing? Why isn't that doing as well as our Facebook video strategy? And then it's basically brings the question up in a group environment of, oh, well, actually YouTube is prioritizing longer content and serving up videos to people as a recommendation if it has long watch times. Okay, then why are we trying to put a 30-second spot on there? That doesn't make any sense. We've got a 2-hour amazing piece of content. Why don't we put that up there? Great, do it. And all of a sudden their content gets prioritized. Whereas the flip side, how people are scrolling through Facebook, Instagram, it's very quick, right? So we got to be quick hitting. We got to get our star of the commercial or star of the movie, whatever it is, first frame, boom. As soon as people scroll, they see beautiful face, hot body, whatever it is that you're trying to sell, and it stops them from scrolling. Whereas YouTube, they're already sitting and passively watching. So those are just very two nuanced examples of those types of platforms. In reality, you're going to have 50, 60, 70 main players over the next decade that are going to add on to that. And each one needs its own conversation from the creative team or content creators. And if you're only going to choose 1 or 2 or 5, you need to know the differences between them. And again, I mentioned to you earlier that the reason we're called Atomized is this atomization of content. All these little pieces of your marketing campaign are basically laddering up and forming this big thing. You have to understand those pieces. You have to understand how the platforms work, how they interact with each other, the differences between what works and what doesn't on them. There's tons of information on that online at any given time. Again, it's always changing. That's the beauty of it all. But like, there's nothing bad about wanting to go in and try something on Instagram or try a Snapchat strategy. Nothing bad can come of it. It used to be that people were all afraid to post online. It's like now there's so much content. If you don't post every day, multiple times a day on these platforms, A, you're not going to learn, and B, you're just not even really relevant or even there.
Yeah, and the cost on it is very low, like zero, for putting it out there, other than your time, and that will be there. But I think those of you that are watching this, think about what's just said. You just got a great lesson on how to succeed in business. Go back over this and write down, take careful notes. You might want to pause the video and take some notes on this. What ChRiS is talking about works in business, and this is where the landscape is today. Going out years ago on TV, say in the early 50s, early 60s, that was a good place to be because it was a new media. It was hot. It was then. They then came out with other tools from time to time. Today, it's social media. And you want to be there and you want to plan. ChRiS, I'm not going to let you get away without telling folks how they can get in touch with you if they want to get some more information. I know you've got a lot of videos, a lot of blogs and information on your website to help people really in an educational way to learn how to do this stuff, whether they use your product or someone else's. You've got a great product and people need to know about that. Someone wants to reach you. What's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Yeah, I mean, our website, atomized.com, atomized.com, has a lot of information on it, as well as a way to get a hold of us in a sign-up form. Feel free to email me, chris@atomized.com. I give it to everybody. I hope people use it. So I love talking about this stuff. And I think I would just add on to that last point to make sure that it's in there is that, example I give people all the time is, imagine if CNN or Fox or any of these giant, news stations or TV stations was going out of business tomorrow. And they're like, here you go. You can have all of our assets for your business. You can have our equipment. You can have our distribution. You can have our audience. Have at it. What would you do? Because that's essentially what has already happened, right? You've got these in your pocket, which shoot 4K video. There's no excuse of not making video look good. You've got a free distribution system in this whole network of apps. It doesn't cost you any money to create this content. It's just a little bit of time and learning and understanding and being comfortable with creating the content. And it's not, video isn't necessarily the thing. It could be writing. I mean, there are plenty of platforms like Medium and things of that nature where you can type out all that you want. Again, the network's built into it. So the interaction with the audience, the content production, it's all right there. And I think you just have to start. You just have to execute on it and, again, find out what works.
Exactly. I think that's a key. And what ChRiS said before, those of you who are watching this, is very important because you might think, oh my, how am I going to do all this? Well, there's a thing called repurposing. Very important that you can take that YouTube video and you've got it there and you go, wow, that was really good. We had a good interview or you talked about something good. Take that, you can pull the audio out of it, and it can go over to your podcast or other medium for audio with an MP3. Then transcribe it, maybe clean it up a little bit or so, and now you got something for, like Chris mentioned, Medium or your blog or other tools where you want to put it there. So think about repurposing. And of course, Facebook Live is a great place to do a certain kind of, hey, this is happening right now, and we're seeing a lot of excitement generated in many different places on there. Get in touch with ATOMIZED and find out more about this for your business. You'll be glad you did. Chris, thank you so much for joining us. You got a great amount of information, very helpful and very practical for what we have. Thanks for joining us today, Chris.
No problem. Anytime. Thank you.
And those of you that are joining us, think about these things. I want you to go back, and you owe it to yourself. Stop this, go back over it, and usually one exposure to new material really doesn't help it sink in. So what you want to do is go back and get that pen and paper ready to go, or your note-taking device of choice. Take some notes on this, learn what's available, see how it all works, and then use this and implement it where it's appropriate for you. ATOMIZED is the company. Look them up, study their website, see what's there. You'll be glad you did. Reporting for Business Journals and for TerryBrock.com, I'm Terry Brock. Thanks for being here.